Gemini is generally known as the twins in most cultures. The most well-known story comes from the Greek culture. The two brightest stars indicate the twins' heads and are named Castor and Pollux. Pollux is the son of Zeus and Queen Leda from an affair. Castor is from her union with her husband, King Tyndareus of Sparta. Therefore, Pollux is immortal and Castor is human. When Castor is killed, Pollux is devastated and begs Zeus to bring his brother back to life. Zeus relented and joined them in the sky, and there they remain. Early Christians sometimes called them David and Jonathan, and the Egyptians saw them as a pair of goats. Wow. For the Chinese, the twin stars were the symbols of eternal contrast in life, yin and yang. In fact, they claimed that if Gemini was invaded by Mars, war and poor harvest would ensue. Arabian and Babylonians named them the twins, and in India they were Akvini, aka the horseman. Gemini is the most northerly constellation and is dominated by the two bright stars that represent the heads of the twins. The easiest way to find Gemini is to first find Orion. After finding Orion, go straight up to Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse. The obvious stars that can be seen unaided make an upside down U. Gemini is one of the few constellations that actually look like the figure it represents. Gemini is one of the more famous constellations. The twins are best seen during the winter and spring in the northern hemisphere. The heads of Gemini twins are the bright stars Pollux and Castor. Most of the other stars that compose of the constellation figures, arms, head, and bodies are noticeably fainter than those in their heads and feet. A second magnitude star known as Alhena marks one of Pollux's feet. There are a few interesting objects to look at around Gemini. There is a cluster of stars near the foot of the twin on the right, and a nebula near the arm of the twin on the left. The first object we will look at is M35, which is located above Castor's foot. M35 is an open star cluster which was discovered in the year 1745 by Swiss astronomer Philippe Los de Cincius. This open cluster is an exceptional sight with about 200 stars. With binoculars or a small telescope, it is visible as a nebula or a hazy patch. If the night is clear, it might also be seen with the naked eye. M35 does look as if it were a string of stars and has been described as a splendid specimen whose stars appear in a curving row, reminding one of the astronomers that it looks like a bursting skyrocket. We will look at IC 443, which is located southwest of M35, located about A half a degree southwest of M35 is a faint star cluster. It is seen as a small nebulosity in small scopes and is seen in full splendor in larger instruments. IC 443 is a supernova remnant located in Gemini. IC 443 may be the remains of a supernova that occurred 3,000 to 30,000 years ago. Although the remnant age is still uncertain, it is also called the jellyfish. On the display to your right, you can definitely see why. The Eskimo or Clown Face Nebula, called NGC 2392, is one of the more distant nebulae, 10,000 light years away. Only in larger scopes can an observer find the facial features. In smaller scopes, it appears as a blue-greenish Jupiter-sized object. To find this planetary nebula, draw an imaginary line between Kappa Generarum and Lambda Generarum. Now draw a perpendicular line from Delta Generarum, and just about where this line meets the other one is where you'll find the Eskimo Nebula. Cold. The Eskimo Nebula, NGC 2392, also known as Clown Face Nebula or Caldwell 39, is a bipolar double-shell planetary nebula. It was discovered by astronomer William Herschel in 1787. The formation resembles a person's head surrounded by a parka hood. It is surrounded by gas that compose the outer layers of a sun-like star. The visible inner